Welcome back to the Aussie Shed, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of Project Fairlady. Now, any of you guys that follow my channel would know that I'm slowly easing myself into the bodywork on the Fairlady. So now what I'm currently doing is I'm working on the fit up of all the TwinZ components that I have for the car. Some fit better than others, and as a lot of you guys would know, I did a whole video on having to replace the outer sill on the other side of the vehicle because I couldn't get the TwinZ side skirt and sill covers and everything to fit on that side because there was a problem with the vehicle. That's all been corrected now, and I actually have that side skirt and everything all fitted up over that side. So I thought I'd go into a bit of detail for you guys because I have seen videos of people buying body kit stuff, including TwinZ stuff, sending it straight to a panel shop and getting it all painted before they've attempted to even fit it up onto the car, and ending up either tearing their hair out with it or fitting it up and just having a really crap job done of it. Now, I get that it really shouldn't be like that, but the reality of it is that no body kit stuff that you buy, no matter how much you pay for it and how good it's touted to be, will ever fit properly. Now, some of you guys might also say, well, that's bullshit, Trevor, because I bought some body kit stuff and I got it painted and fitted and it fit perfectly. Well, good on ya, but I reckon if I had a look at it, I reckon I could pick holes in it. I'm not saying that there's a problem with your car being shit or anything, but I guarantee someone with a keen eye can pick holes in it. Unless, mate, you're one of the super outliers that everything's fitted perfectly on. But rather than get myself into too much shit here and alienate too many people, that's just the reality of it. I have mates who work in smash repair, and they constantly talk about particularly young guys, and there's nothing wrong being with a young guy. We've all been young once, but it's just a lack of experience. Turning up with body kit parts and saying, can you paint this for me? And then their question is, have you fitted this to the vehicle? And they say, no, oh, you don't need to, this will fit perfect. And he basically just tells them to piss off and walk out the door because it's not worth the headaches for them with comebacks. Then when things get mucked up, things get scratched up, you know, the customer's not happy because it doesn't fit, and then they somehow expect the people who have painted it to sort of fix up things that have been fucked up during the installation. Anyway, don't get me wrong, this is by no means a video ragging on the TwinZ stuff because overall I think it is very, very good, but there are still quite a lot of fit up issues that need to be solved and quite a lot of work put into it. So far, I reckon with these, I've got both side skirts, door fillers on both sides, the front valance and the rear spoiler on the car. Rear spoiler I haven't done much to. It seems to fit pretty well, but I haven't looked that closely at it yet. I reckon I've got probably 20 hours into the side skirts at least. And I've probably got maybe 20, 25, 30 hours into the front valance. And it's still not right, and I still need to do a heap more work to it. And that, guys, is the reality of body kit stuff. Unless you've got a pretty low standard and you're just happy to slap it on and think it looks good. And don't get me wrong, from 10 feet away it probably does look really good. But if you're the sort of person who wants to run a close eye over things and is not happy with things only looking good from that distance, you've got a lot of work ahead of you. So let's start going over all this kind of stuff and I'll kind of fill you in on how it's been going. So I'll start with this side skirt here, guys. This is the right hand side. Side skirt, door infill, and side lip on the bottom there. Now, the main area that you're going to have to do work on these things is in this area here because it's not completely trimmed out 100% how it needs to be. You will need to get in here and file and grind away to get that fit up perfect so that from end to end on the vehicle, because that's a fixed length, because this is one piece, you know, you've really got to work with what you've got. Plus your front guard here, you may need to adjust your guard to get, you know, that distance right as well without buggering up your door gaps and everything like that. So you don't end up with also gaps down here, so you often need to file one end, whether it's that end or this end or maybe in the middle, down in that edge across the top there, so you get it fitting in really snug. because you have to keep this piece removable, you need it to be able to bolt up and have a really neat line like that along there. I'll just give you a bit of a squiz what that looks like, and you can see how neat I've got that line along there. So when this is painted and bolted back on, it will be absolutely perfect. Alright guys, I'm going to have to take the camera off the tripod, put this trusty guy on it so that we can get around a bit. I'm just trying to drag the tripod and it's too much of a pain. Apologies in advance. I'm old, my hands are a bit shaky, and it could end up being a really horrid shaky video, but it's all I can do, guys. It's all I can do. Alright, well that should be a little bit easier. Alright, down the back, same deal. A lot of work needed in this section just here, in around these corners and along this top edge here. Again, so that you can get it in really neat like that, because believe me, when you first sit it on there, it does not sit like that. Alright, the door fillers here. In my experience, both the door fillers are way too fat. They need grinding down quite a lot on that back side. There is a bit of a lip that you can grind into, but you fairly quickly run out of lip to grind in, so that you end up getting these things flush like this, you know, and flush down here, and the same at the front. You can't have these things hanging out because they look stupid, and you can't pull this out because it has to fit on the front and rear guards. So the only way you can fix that is to grind the back of this down and reshape it until you get it really neat. Now it will actually also need quite a lot of shaping along the top edge here to sit nicely in along the door, which it doesn't do from the factory. It sits okay, and now all of this stuff does sit okay, and you might be happy with that, but me personally, not a chance. Now, a couple of issues here. The hardware that comes with the kit is really crap, so I've replaced all the hardware with my own stuff. Going down through the sill panels down here, I have rib nuts running all the way along, stainless rib nuts, flush rib nuts into the body, and stainless bolts going in there, and that is how it will kind of stay. There's also an issue along here, which I've got to get the camera in so you can hopefully see it, is I've got a bit of a gap. Where am I? I've got a bit of a gap in this section down here that I'm not happy with. I'm just going to re-fiberglass that and fill it in, and then kind of cut it off. I did also have to trim this section down here. You can see a bit of a mark in the sill where this section originally went to. I had to cut that back because it was holding the sill too far that way, and it didn't allow me to get the sill panel down enough, because I had this big lump sitting here which had to go, and I had to do the same thing on both sides with that. So be prepared that you may have to actually take a piece off the end here so that you can get this to fit up properly. Otherwise it just starts, you know, it kind of lifts it, then it wants to interfere with the bottom of your door. You can't get it lined up properly in this direction either, and that was just something that I found I had to do with both pieces. And overall, the sort of finish on it, it's pretty reasonable. You know, when I sort of throw a light along there, I have actually sort of roughly sanded over a few spots here and there. It's reasonable, but it does have small ripples all over it. So what that means, in other words, if I can get a light along there that you can actually see it, it just means that they need quite a bit of body work. Not a massive amount like a lot of stuff that I've seen, but they do need some. You can't just expect to throw primer on these things and then throw some paint on it and be done with it. So if you take it to a panel shop, even after you've done all your fit up on them, if you take them to a panel shop and you're surprised at how much it's going to cost to get them painted, a lot of that's due to the fact that there is quite a lot of imperfections that you will see when it's painted if you don't do the prep properly. And if they're going to do a cheap job for you, expect to get exactly that. You'll get a cheap job, because people can't spend hours and hours on something for nothing. Everyone has to get paid, and to make this stuff look good, it needs time, and time means money. So again, something I talk about often, learn to do stuff, guys. Bit of body work's not hard, bit of simple stuff. Learn how to flatten panels down, buy yourself a bit of gear so that you can do most of the prep on this sort of stuff yourself before you then take it to a panel shop, to a painter, and get them to paint it. That way it's going to only cost you time, and if it's spare time, it's not really costing you any money for you to do it, and then you've just really got to pay to get the paint sort of put on. But overall, the side skirts, door infills and lips, I am very happy with them, even though it probably sounds like I'm complaining a bloody awful lot. But I am actually very happy with it, and I certainly expected there to be this amount of work in them. So now let's go on to a piece that I didn't expect there'd be that amount of work in it. Alright, so this is the TwinZ front valance for the early twin turbo bar. Now, initially when I got the thing, I threw it on the car and I thought, oh yeah, that sort of fits alright, and just left it there and didn't think too much more about it. But now that I've actually been doing the proper fit up on the thing, the fit up with this is actually really, really terrible. So bad, in fact, that I've had to section that front valance into 3 pieces. Now, I didn't do that initially. I was basically forced into a situation where I had to section it because I could not get it to fit properly. And apart from that, I've cut away all underneath it as well, because this sort of raised section in here that's like that on both sides, it forces the valance down and means that you get a really terrible fit up here. So the only way to fix that and make it sit properly is to cut this away so it actually slips up behind the front bar there, or at least kind of flush with it, so that you don't end up with this horrible fit up. Now, I have seen a few people with this valance fitted to their car online, and all the photos that I've seen, the valance looks absolutely hideous due to the poor fit up. If you have a look at there's an ad for it on the TwinZ website, and I guarantee that car has had a crap ton of fit up work done on it before they took the photos of it, because it looks like how mine looks now, and there's no way that this looked like this from the initial get-go when I got it. So the problems with this valance were, this section here is really hard to make fit. It wants to sit forward, it wants to hang right out, and it doesn't want to go all the way up. Again, that's due to, most of that is due to this extra sort of flap that they have on the bottom and expect you to sort of hang it in. It's like this wide, and that realistically all has to be removed. I've got probably 30 mil along the front here now, instead of something that's like 4 or 5 inches wide, and even along here it still sort of tapers before it sort of goes back to full width underneath in this section here. I'll show it to you later. But to get this to fit properly and to get this to fit neatly around the gills here on the front, I started, obviously, like I say, trimming the bottom and then working out, oh, it still needs to go up, and pushing it up and moving it in, and trying all the time to get this piece here back to the underside of the round that's in the front bar there. And you can see here, both sides are looking pretty good. They're both pretty much identical here. Same thing here, all the shaping that's been done on this section, just to get it to fit back properly, because it does not want to fit back properly, and this thing here ends up friggin' sticking out here and on a really wonky angle. So once I had that section fitted up, and this also, what I'm about to talk about now, was quite apparent from the get-go with it, I noticed that, well, actually, let me go back. So I started working on all these pieces individually. So you can see I've got a bit of shaping work that's been done here to try and get this to sit back flush in here, right, not be hanging out, and fit over the gills here properly. That definitely needed all this sort of relief work done on it. And I've also done quite a little bit of work along this top edge here to get it to fit back in, and it's not finished. Like this front bar is probably only 50% finished. I still have a whole heap more to do to it, even though it's looking pretty good. The other problem with this valance is the angle of this section here, when you take the front out of it, was sitting about here, right? So the angle was too much like this, poking out. So it was actually pulling the front bar out when you'd attach it to it, and to bend it in was really stressing the front valance. You could get it to bend in, but man, it would really stress the front valance out. So much to a point that when I was doing the same thing on this side, I noticed a crack had formed through here, just from me mucking around with a fit up from pushing this side around. A big crack had developed through here. Now, I pulled the valance off and had a look at it, and there was a massively thin spot in this area where they hadn't laid up enough strand mat, and it was just basically like paper. You could just sort of touch it, and it would, you know, move in and dent and stuff like that. It was paper thin, and that's a defect from the factory. Now, that would have always cracked, and it would have only taken one stone to hit it, and it would have gone straight through and probably smashed that whole area. So that's what that repair there is. I've reinforced it. So it's had 5 or 6 layers of chopped strand mat on the back and a couple of layers over the front, and it's had a bit of shaping work done to it. Now, you're probably wondering why both sides have this repair work here. Same thing on this side. And that's because I ended up having to section the valance. I cut it into 3 pieces due to the fact that if I got the front to fit, I couldn't get the sides to fit. Now, the issue with the sides, as I say, is the angle was way off, and you had to bend them in too much. But apart from that, the work in getting this center section of the valance done meant that it was going in and in and in until we got the alignment up here. And what that's done by bringing this all the way in until it actually lines up properly now, it's pushing this out. So you can imagine from the side, if you're pushing it in, it's also pushing that in that direction as well. So it ended up with these sitting out about here. So part of the process of sectioning this was I had to cut both of them through this section here. I had to cut between 10 and 15 mil out of it to allow this to slide back in. And I also had to fiddle with the angle on that so that this was in tight, which meant the cuts that I did weren't completely parallel. It was a bit of a taper to get that back around and then get this all sort of lined up. So as you can see now, this is lining up pretty well. Again, it still needs more work along here. And I also have another section there that I'll show you shortly that needs quite a lot of work done to it. But basically, I've now got the thing back into one piece. And it basically fits like a glove. You can see I've got screws in it sort of here and there holding it in, and that's just so that it sits in tight where I want it. And I will repair these screw holes later, because when it comes time, this will be urethaned onto the front bar, and I'll use the screws to pull it in tight so it stays in position really well. Again, something that you can't do if the thing's already painted. You're going to have to try and use tape and clamps to get it to fit in properly. So, like I say, this will be urethaned and screwed together. Then once the urethane's dry, I'll pull the screws out, patch the holes, and probably even smear a bit of filler or something in here so this looks like it's all one piece. So then it no longer looks like it's an add-on. It looks like it's sort of part of the bar. So as you can imagine, guys, there is a lot of work and a lot of hours in doing this sort of stuff. And typically, if you don't do this, what happens, and if you have a look at some cars that have this, where it shows up really obviously is in this section here, where it meets the bottom of the front guard. If you see a car that hasn't had all this fit-up work done, this will be sitting straight down. Instead of following the body line down on this angle here, it'll be sitting straight down there. It'll be sitting sort of right out. This will be right around, because like I say, you're trying to force it, and you can force it in and glue it at the top, but it'll always want to sort of pull out at the bottom. And like I say, you're then mounting this whole valance under stress to try and get it in. And also, you'll see they fit up really badly here. This will be gappy, and these front corners will be poking out. That's a dead giveaway that the bar hasn't been fitted up properly. And as I say, sorry to tell you this, guys, but in my opinion, the only way to get a proper fit up on this front valance is you have to chop it into 3 pieces and do your fit up that way. Now, another thing that I've been sort of working on here with this is getting this to roll down properly down through here. You can see that looks really good. And I'll show you the other side, which I actually forgot to do. I shot myself in the foot with that one, because I should have done it before I sectioned it, which I did on this side. I just simply forgot with all the work that was going on with it. So we'll go around and have a look at the other side, and I'll show you what the issue there is. Alrighty, so if you can see here, yes, there you go. See how this is sticking out like that? One on the other side came down almost flush and looked really, really sweet. Whereas this one It's sticking out and it looks absolutely hideous. This whole corner is sticking out quite a bit. It needs quite a bit of work in here still to get that back in this way, to squeeze in tighter against the body like it is here. As it comes along, it just starts sticking out and out and out, and it's also too proud this way. What I should have done when I sectioned it, I should have ground in behind here, and you can see there's a little notch there where it sits in the bar. That should have been reduced in size and allowed me to sort of push that back in. But being a goose, I didn't do that, so now I'm in deep shit. I've already joined the bar back together. I can't grind this and push this forward. If I do grind stuff out of there and push it forward, it affects the fit up on the front of the bar. So what I'm going to have to do here, guys, is I'm going to have to go in the back of there again with at least half a dozen, maybe 6 or 8 layers of chopped strand mat with epoxy resin, and build that up there where you can see that gap is. Build that up with glass mat and resin, and then grind. God, I need 3 hands here. And then grind all of this off until that's flush, which you can see it is definitely not flush yet. So I am getting there with it, guys. I am getting there with it. Again, this needs you know, quite a bit of smoothing and stuff on it. It's a little bit ripply along this edge, along the front. This transition here was never great from the factory up through here, which I'm going to correct. I've actually got quite a few layers of glass mat in behind this, so that if I grind through to get it straight, I'll be hitting more glass mat that's in there, you know. So I've basically thickened this area up to allow me to grind through it to get a really nice transition across here. Same on both sides. One side was actually better than the other, but yeah, neither of them were really perfect. I don't know what to go with that is, but again, you can fix everything, but it's just a matter of having the skills to do it and having the time and everything else as well, you know. So this is what I'm using to repair everything with. West 105. This is basically the standard for epoxy resin stuff. I'm just using the general, what they call a fast hardener, which is basically all you really want to use. You don't want to use any of the slow hardeners, because even the fast hardener takes quite a while for it to go off. Mixing it by volume, I'm just using syringes to mix it up. It's 5 to 1, you know, so it's quite easy. 25 mil, if I want to mix up 25 mil, you know, 2.5 syringes of this, and then I've got a 5 mil syringe here for the hardener, and it's just 1 syringe of that. It makes it pretty foolproof, you know, unless you're going to be using scales to mix it up with. But this is really simple. The resin and the hardener don't seem to affect the rubber in the syringes, so you can just use them over and over and over and over again. Other than that, I'm using chopped strand mat, which I don't seem to have my roll here handy. It's probably sitting outside. Where are we? Oh no, there it is on the ground. Alright, so I've got a big roll of chopped strand mat here that I use for other purposes in my life. So I'm just cutting, you know, various pieces of that up, and using that to do all my build-ups and do my repairs and all that sort of stuff, in combination with the West 105 epoxy resin. Since I'm at the back of the car, this is the rear bar that I did a couple of videos ago. Lots of repair work done on that. That's sitting in 2-pack epoxy primer currently. It's looking pretty good, but it's probably realistically only about 80% there. It's good enough that it can be hung on the car, and I can then you know, attack it when I do the rest of the car, when I'm sort of working on all the panels when they're hung, flattening and straightening everything, because it is definitely in need of a lot of work like that. I'll get a bit of light on here on this door. Don't know how much you can see, but it is very, very ripply. Only little stuff, but the whole car's like that, very, very ripply. So lots and lots and lots of hours in priming and filling and sanding and priming and filling and sanding and priming and filling and sanding before any paint goes on this thing. So I won't show you anything with the rear spoiler at the moment. It's just sitting up there. I haven't really had a chance to do much with that, but I think the fit up is pretty good on that. Well, I thought that with other things, but so we'll see. But it appears to be pretty good. And again, these weren't that bad, but don't kid yourself. You do need to do work on them. So there you go, guys. Just a quick video today on fitting up some of this bodywork stuff. It's just, you know, general stuff. I honestly didn't expect this to be any different, but I have seen so many people lately either fitting stuff up and having it look like shit, or complaining about how bad it is and all this kind of stuff. The reality with all this kind of stuff, and as all us old guys will tell you, you just have to do the work yourself. You can't expect to buy stuff and have it fit up properly and everything be hunky-dory. That's the perfect world, and it doesn't exist. Which is why a lot of us end up buying tools and learning how to do this sort of stuff ourselves, because realistically, from a financial point of view, it's the only way you're going to get a really, really premium job at an affordable price, you know, which means basically you've got to do most of the work yourself. Anyway, guys, a bit of a rant, but I just thought I'd let some of you guys know before you get yourselves too deep into this sort of thing. Again, the problem is going to be when this car's finished, it's going to look really, really, really nice, and no one's going to probably realise, or a lot of people aren't going to realise the amount of work went into getting it fit. There will just be guys who will come into the comments and they'll go, "Man, I love your body kit, what is it?" Right? And I'll say it's TwinZ, and they'll go, "That looks awesome, I'm going to buy one." And then they will buy the same stuff, take it somewhere, get it painted, and fit it on their car, and it looks like dog shit. You know, it's the reality of it. Anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by the Aussie Shed. Always a bloody pleasure to have you here. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Head over to the website, upperhandperformanceproducts.com.au, for just a few unique bits and pieces that I've made for the Z32. And as always, guys, I'll bloody well see you on the next one. Cheers.